Hello and welcome to TEL'S. Now today I am bringing you knowledge about your vehicles, quite important knowledge as well. Now the cars that it applies to are diesels, not petrols, so if you've got petrols you don't have to worry about this. Now what this information is about this thing here, is about this. And this is a DPF filter. Now this exists in your exhaust. If you have a diesel, this is part of your exhaust system. The idea about this thing is it captures the hydrocarbons or the unburnt soot that comes out of your exhaust. Now, there is a lot of knowledge that has not been shared about these things. Now, pretty much all diesel vehicles after 2005 are fitted with a DPF. Reason being is to meet the new Euro regulations to be going in cities and towns. Now, with vehicles with DPS, what you are not told is that the vehicle has to basically be on the motorway once a week. So you have to drive it once a week on the motorway for a minimum of 30 minutes. And the reason being is because that's how you clean this. When you get this on the motorway, you drive it down the motorway for 30 minutes. After 5 minutes of driving at constant speed, the car will then initialize a regeneration. So it will go into regeneration, and then what it will do is it will heat this up, and in process, because it will be full of soot, what it will do is it will superheat this, and the temperatures will get so hot in this, theoretically it can melt concrete, right? And then it burns all the contaminants out and then punches almost what's kind of like sand, pure carbon dust out the exhaust, and then cleans itself and reduces the soot content and makes it breathe better. So, and if you're not doing that, theoretically this thing's not getting clean. So if you're just running around town and you're not spending enough time on the motorway, eventually this thing will clog up. There are things you can do to stop them from clogging up. You can buy a fuel additive, just like an injector cleaner. You can buy a DPF cleaner to go in your fuel, and then it will clean this. So that's one option. The other option is, if it does start getting clogged up, you can take your car to a garage and you can have what's called a false regeneration. So they can basically plug their computer in and actually regenerate the DPF statically to get rid of the soot content. The other thing with these things, if your car is not running also at 95% efficiency, so if you're not servicing it regularly, you're not looking after it, and the engine is not performing the way it should be, it will straight away, like instantly, fill this up. So if you're not servicing your car, changing your filters, putting good fuel in it, looking after the vehicle, again, you'll fill it up. Now, I will say these things are like the burden of my life, and probably most mechanics' lives actually at the moment, because we are seeing so many of these things filled with carbon, plugging up the exhaust. And what it does is it fills this up first, and then obviously because it can't get the gases out the engine, it contaminates the oil, fills up everything else, overheats stuff, and obviously when the oil gets contaminated, gets that carbon in it, it starts wearing engine components. Most of the time when you clean these things out as well, it only lasts a few months and then they clog up again because the damage is already done. The problem is the cars of today are really built to be driven on the motorway. They're not built to be driven around towns. So what I will say, for a very important piece of knowledge, if you're looking at buying a new car and you want a round town car, do not buy a diesel. A diesel, really, modern day diesels are for commuting. They're for long miles, I would say, being on the motorway. If you want to drive around town, run the kids to school, or not step out of your local area, then you do want to be looking at some modern day petrols. And I will say as well, with most modern day petrols, they've got new direct injection systems. Some of the new petrols are getting 45 miles to the gallon, which is not far off what the diesels are making now. The other thing about these is they don't really do much. I know it sounds funny, but like the old cars before they had these on, they would have a huge catalytic converter. Now a cat is different from a DPF because a cat chemically changes the exhaust gases to make them more healthier for the environment. Now this thing is a filter. So basically what happens is you do have a cat up front, and then what comes apart, but it's smaller than what it normally would be. And then this thing is supposed to stop the rest of the contaminants. Now really, I don't think it truly stops it. So I'd like to actually test this as well. Or if someone else has tested this, maybe put something on there on YouTube about it, because theoretically, when you burn this thing clean, okay, the temperatures get really hot, but you still have them toxic gases come out the exhaust, because after this, there is no catalytic converter. So theoretically, when this burns itself clean, it punches them contaminants out into the atmosphere. So theoretically, if you had the old car with a big, huge catalytic converter, would be more better on the environment than this one. Now, okay, at the time when you test them on an MOT and you basically test their emissions there, like say when you test their emissions at that precise moment, the one with the DPF will be better because the filter will be capturing the dirt. But if you were to put them both on a rolling road, run them for a day, have one go into regeneration and the other one just running as it is, I reckon the one with the DPF would be better for the environment. I think more contaminants will come out the one with the DPF on than the one with the big catalytic converter. I really do, because the main idea of this is that when you're driving around places like London or big cities, is it captures the soot in it there, and then when you go down the motorway, it then burns them contaminants out on the motorway, out of the city, obviously where the people are. So theoretically, these are actually probably worse for the environment than the older cars with the big catalytic converters. And I'm like some of the old cars, like the old Ford Focuses, their cats would be twice the size of this. They'd be like that long, massive things. And say if you were to cut one of these open, you would find, now this one is a pure DPF, there's no catalytic converter in this one, but on some of them they're about that big. If you cut one open, you would find that about that much of it is catalytic converter, and then the size of that box behind it would be the DPF. So theoretically, it's only got a tiny little pre-cap. So theoretically, there's less catalytic converter there to clean the emissions. Unlike the older ones where the cap would be literally that big. So theoretically, more would get cleaned as they go through. So remember, if you have a diesel, once a week on the motorway, minimum once a month, at least 30 to 40 minutes drive to get this thing clean. If you don't do that, try to get some TPF cleaner to put in your fuel to help keep this thing clean. And remember, you've got to keep that car serviced and looked after, otherwise you will fall victim to a DPF failure. And these things can cost anywhere from 150. The dearest one I've ever fitted was £2,000 on a Nissan Qashqai. So some of them are very expensive. So anyway, hope this information was helpful. If it has, please like and subscribe. Ping it about so other people can know about their exhausts and know about these things, because this is probably one of the most common thing I see in my garage are clogged up DPFs. Anyway, thank you for watching. Speak to you again soon.